Some of you are probably wondering, how much am I exaggerating for this clickbait title? Very little. Very, very little. Hello, what's up guys? I'm Kyle from KGR, and today we're going to be going over my experience at working at Amazon. Now, I'm going to try to keep this story as non-biased as I can make it. Try to make it not so one-sided, make it all about complaining about how Amazon did me dirty and other stuff like that. No. I'm going to try to be as real as I can. There is going to be some complaining a little bit in there, I will admit, but I understand Amazon has a set of rules, and they're very strict about those rules, but they have a set of rules to maximize their performance of the warehouse. And because of these strict rules and stuff, it's how people are able to get their orders with their 2-day Prime shipping. I completely understand how that works. It's fine. But the clickbait title, we're going to get toward the end of the video so I can really explain what happened. Before I was doing Amazon, first up, why did I go to Amazon? I was working Best Buy part-time prior to working at Amazon, and I wanted to go full-time at Best Buy, but where I wanted to go, I couldn't do it full-time. The only way I can get full-time is if I became someone on the sales floor. I was working customer service, but where I wanted to go was towards the warehouse. So I wanted to do a thing called product flow. So doing online orders, shipping them to houses, or doing the curbside orders or store pickups and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, a full-time position wasn't available for that. And I had small experience with the online orders because during the holiday season, that's what I was doing for the most part. In fact, when the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S launched, I was there really early in the morning fulfilling those orders. And I had a blast doing those. It was fun. I loved the guy that I worked with doing all this, and I just loved giving people their orders, and it was just a good time for me. Except during the winter, I wore running shoes because I thought they'd be softer on my feet. And then I walked into a giant pile of snow. Running shoes breathe. So I felt all of that. So I told my boss, I got cold feet. He's like, what do you mean? I walked into a pile of snow. It was like a giant slush, and now my feet are really cold. And also my car was starting to take a crap, and I wanted to move out and stuff like that. I wanted to start my life, so I couldn't do part-time anymore, so I had to find a full-time job. So my brothers have been working there. My one brother's been working there for I don't know how many years, and he always hates it because he hates working as much as I do. Call us lazy. Yeah. But then my other brother, he's a hard worker, and he's been working there for about a month or two or so prior to me working there. And he was telling me how it's actually not that bad down there, and I'm like, okay, I'll go for it. So before I go to Amazon, I let my boss know, hey, I'm gonna be going to Amazon. Would it be possible if I'm just not scheduled for a couple of weeks? So, God forbid that Amazon doesn't work out, I can come back, no problem. Have myself a backup plan. And he was all down for it. So, I get there at Amazon, and the best way I can describe this place, when I first got there, it felt like a school. And then it felt like a prison, but I'll get into more of that. Like, not me complaining. It's really funny why I call it a prison. So the way it felt like going to a new school, because, I went from going to Best Buy and loving everybody that I worked with to having absolutely nobody. But some kids experience that when they move and they go to an all-new school. It happens. Unfortunately, at Amazon, because everything's so fast-paced, you don't really have much time to make new friends. And me making brand new friends, it's kind of a talent for me. I do it very easily. So we get a tour of the place, the usual, and then we start taking classes in the classrooms with desks and everything. And there's tests. See why I'm also going to that school scenario. And even when you're working there regularly, so let's say you're outside of the training, there is what I call a health class at least once a month. It's called, what's it called actually? Working Well. That's what it's called, Working Well. You just watch a video while you're working, whether you do picking, packing, whatever. You all huddle up into this giant thing. You watch this video and you answer questions. It takes about 10 minutes of your time, but you don't get in trouble for it. You actually get signed in for it and all that stuff, so you get credit. But I was slightly becoming friends with the people that I was working with, what I was training with, I should say, because hey, there are people that are always around me, I might as well start making friends. And then we started learning how to drive the order pickers. It doesn't feel like a car, but they are easy to drive. So if you're scared of that, don't worry. However, if you have a fear of heights, that's going to be an issue. I haven't tested my fear of heights since I was in elementary school, and I'm 27 now. So me going into this, I had no idea if I had a fear of heights or not, but I had a feeling that I wasn't. So when we learn how to drive, they take us into the aisles and they're like, all right, you're going to go all the way to the top and we're going to see if you're scared of heights. And I get up there, and when I get up there, the height itself, I'm thinking, wow, I'm up really high. But once you start making a slight movement, the whole thing starts to wobble. Because since you're up so high, it's not as stable. But thankfully, you're on a harness. You're attached to the order picker. So God forbid you do fall off. You're safe. You're fine. Worst comes to worst, you're a guy and you fall off and the harness rides up you the wrong way and it starts hurting quite a bit. But you'll survive. You'll live. You'll be fine. So when that happens, I'm thinking, okay, this ain't too bad. And eventually we started taking training courses on like how to drive around the warehouse and all that stuff. And then eventually we have to actually start picking. Before I got into picking and all that stuff, I had a couple of questions. My main question being, how much do I have to fear about losing my job? Like, how much do I have to be scared about the pick rate? Because if you watch videos on YouTube or if you read articles in Reddit, a lot of people complain about the pick rate. You gotta make sure that pick rate is staying up or else you're gonna get in trouble for it. And the guy told me it's hard for you to get fired for your pick rate. Like, as long as you're above the bottom 5%, you'll be fine. It's safety you got to really worry about. And no, I wasn't fired for safety, but that's something I took into consideration now. But Amazon is very strict about their safety because, let's be real, they don't want to have a bunch of lawsuits and stuff on their hands. Like, they want to make sure everyone's performing safely and all that stuff. And I say that they don't want to deal with a bunch of lawsuits and they care about your safety and all that stuff. Their health benefits are absolutely fantastic. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why I went there. Not only because it was decent money and it was full-time work, their benefits were incredible. So if you need health benefits desperately, Amazon's not terrible to work for. So after a few weeks in, we start learning how to actually do order picks and all that stuff. So for a couple of weeks, I was very nervous because I wanted to make sure my pick rate was high enough. I want to make sure I was performing well and all that stuff because I'm brand new to this job. Of course, I'm going to be nervous. And because I was new, of course, I screwed up quite a bit. But surprisingly, my pick rate was actually pretty decent. In fact, one of the learning ambassadors was telling a PA person, because I got called up for something I screwed up on. But the learning ambassador was telling the PA person the number, like his pick rate that he's performing, he's only been picking for a couple of weeks and he's performing like somebody who's been there for a couple of years. And it felt like a giant weight off my shoulders. I finally got a little bit of confidence. So I was thinking, as long as I don't screw up so much, I can just not stress out too much. You're performing well. You're doing good. You're fine. Now, this is a couple of weeks into it. It's about a 10.5-hour shift, which is fine. Unfortunately, getting to work is a long drive. It's about a 40-50 minute drive one way. So with work and driving there and back, it's about a 12-hour day for me. And because I also do YouTube, streaming, action figure photography, and God knows what other hobbies, like if I want to hang out with friends or even spend time with my other half, during the days that I work, which is 4 days on, 3 days off, which is really nice. At least it did sound really nice at first. Because I have so many hobbies that I want to do after work, I only have, I think, 3 hours before I have to go to bed, and an hour of that I spend cooking and eating. So I only had a couple hours to stream if I wanted to, or maybe record a YouTube video, which typically I didn't. I saved that for a day I had off. The point is, I didn't have as much free time as I used to. So eventually, I was starting to slowly get used to the place. But as I was at work, because I'm gone for so long out of the day, I think about what I want to do outside of work. Like, oh, what's the next video I want to work on or something like that. Because when I'm at home, let's say like last year, when what I call Corona vacation happened, so unemployment and all that stuff was happening, and it was really nice. When I had too much free time at home, you'd be thinking I'd be pushing out videos left and right. I'll be doing so many different things to be creative. After a while, I just shut down. Once I have too much free time, I don't know exactly what to do with it, so I just shut down. So God willing, I end up becoming a full-time YouTuber. I would want to still have a part-time job doing something else to keep my mind thinking back into what I want to do. I need something to distract me, you know? But I started missing my friends at my old work, so I'd call them every once in a while. When I was on the phone with them, I was saying, like, yeah, I do like this job. There's so many things I like about Amazon compared to working at Best Buy, like working retail altogether. Like, each of them had their pros and cons, but I missed my Best Buy family so much. I got so lonely over there because I went from, like, talking to everybody and loving everybody I work with to having absolutely nobody. Because when you're picking, you can't be on your phone. You can't have an AirPod in listening to music because safety. You gotta be fully alert on what's happening because you're driving, what, 1,200 pound little trucks, order pickers, so they can cause some serious damage if you're not paying attention. So again, safety is a #1 concern. And the reason why I got that job was because I thought it'd be nice to not have somebody pestering me so much about, like, meeting so many goals, and also not having a bunch of other coworkers be in my way. Like, I am in charge of my work mostly. I was really looking forward to all that, but I didn't realize how lonely it would get over there. And once I finally realized how lonely it was over there, that's when it really started to hit me. That's when my mental health started to go down more and more. And not only did my mental health go down more and more, my energy started going down too. Like I was saying, I only had a couple of hours to do whatever. So if I would have stayed up and kept being productive about the things I wanted to do, I'd lose a lot of sleep. Unfortunately, a couple of months in, I was losing more and more sleep. So me hitting the 2-year experience rate I was getting at was dwindling down more and more. So they eventually started talking to me about my pick rate. But thankfully, over time, I started to learn how to make friends down there. There was one learning ambassador that I became super close with. I don't know what it was, but we just clicked instantly. There's also a girl down there that I started to become really good friends with. And I felt bad for this girl because, like, I feel like every guy wants to hook up with her because she's just a young girl that works at Amazon, you know? But because I'm happily taken, I didn't want to do anything like that. And I remember I even talked to her, and I'm like, what eventually got you comfortable around me? And she said as soon as I mentioned my girl, like, that's when she felt safe and stuff around me, because she knew I wasn't trying to get in her pants, you know? I was just trying to make a friend. But me and the learning ambassador, he was a guy. I don't know what it was. That bromance, though, that bromance was real. Like, we felt a connection. But anyway, because of me finally starting to make friends down there, I learned what time off task was. Actually, no, I take that back. I learned what time off task was probably a couple of months into working because I went to the bathroom too many times. So, time off task, if you don't work at Amazon and you don't know exactly how that works, I don't know how it works when you're packing and stuff or shipping, because I know you can hit time off task during that. But when you're picking, the way you hit time off task is it's measured if there's a 10-minute gap between one pick or another. Let's say I'm picking Brutal Legend in one aisle, and then I scan the barcode on the back, and then I gotta go to another aisle and pick, let's say, a floor mat. Typically, it would take about a minute to get from one aisle to another, get to the proper elevation, and scan that bin, and then pick that item. But there are some times where people are in your way. Let's say somebody else is in front of you and they're elevated. When they're elevated and you're in the same aisle, you're not allowed to go around them because you gotta stay like 20 feet behind. You gotta wait until they're done. Or let's say somebody is also stowing things. They're putting stuff from their bin into this basket or whatever, like where you gotta pick from. Like if there's something like that being the reason that you can't get to that bin on time and you hit time off task, if you let somebody know, like a PA person or a manager or something, they can write that off and your pick rate will be adjusted accordingly as well. Unfortunately, going to the bathroom is not one of those because, let's be real, they're not going to pay you for being on the toilet. They want you to be fast and efficient. There's a reason that the 2-day Prime shipping is so great, because people bust their asses down there, and that's completely fine. But some days you just don't feel well. And during the tour, they said, we get it, you got to go to the bathroom every once in a while. But when you go to the bathroom, let's say I do a pick, and then I gotta drive to the bathroom, because sometimes it's not that close to me. So I drive to the bathroom, and then I gotta take off my harness, and I gotta lower my order picker as low as I can so I can safely get off and stuff, which that only takes a couple of seconds. That's not gonna take that much time. But taking off the harness and gloves and whatever, and getting off, and it takes about a minute or so to get to that bathroom. And then, if you're not feeling well, especially if you're doing the number 2s, because that happens, it happened to me, like, kept going multiple times. And then, you know, you're wiping, and it just keeps going, like, the streaks will not go away. I'm sorry that it's getting gross, but I gotta give you that detail to tell you that I wasn't just playing on my phone doing whatever. No lie, I would check Instagram sometimes, I would check my notifications, like during the first time before I got written up for time off task. But most of the time it would be me just wiping, making sure I don't get skid marks in my underwear. And then of course you gotta harness yourself back up and then go back to your order. Getting all that done within 10 minutes isn't always easy. If it's just pee, then yeah, you'll be fine. But also, you also gotta worry about your pick rate, so be careful about that. But more importantly, if it's number 2, it's gonna be tough for you to keep that within the 10 minutes. Like, all of that within 10 minutes. But then, yeah, one day I wasn't feeling well, so I was hitting the bathroom quite often. So, unfortunately, you go into the bathroom so often like that, or just going to the bathroom in general, they can't write that off for a thing that's not your fault. Like, again, time off task, someone else is elevated, write that off. Bathroom, cannot. So that's what I learned. No lollygagging on the bathroom. You can't check your phone all that much. No. But thankfully, like, after I got written up for going to the bathroom too many times, they did teach me, like, what are the best times to go to the bathroom if you can't wait to go on break. Because when I be feeling my cramps to go poop, I have to wait like 2 hours until my break. No, I can't do that. It's hurting. So they did teach me how to avoid time off task if I really need to go to the bathroom that bad. They also said, we're not asking you to lie, but think of absolutely anything that could have stopped you from performing the way you were supposed to. Like, again, like elevation, somebody being in your way, something like that, you know? Unfortunately, I'm not the best liar. I can't just think of stuff on the spot like that. But I did start to hit time off task again pretty frequently once I started making friends and started talking to them. Like, we'll both be like parked in the same aisle, which would be bullshitting for a little bit until someone had to get past us. And we did learn how to manipulate the picking system, so it wouldn't hit time off task all that much. I mean, your pick rate would be affected, but as long as you were hustling and getting that certain number per hour, you'd be fine. But for a week or so before I got fired, or a couple of weeks before I got fired, my brother told me about how he would clock in 5 minutes early, then leave 5 minutes early. Because sometimes I would clock out too early, and then I realized that an hour of my unpaid time was deducted. And the way I looked at it in the system is, like, if I was under my 10 hours, they would deduct it from me. But now, the way they measure is, depending on when you're supposed to clock in or clock out, you have a 5-minute grace period, one way or the other. But I looked at it because I wasn't told properly, or I didn't understand, but I took it as long as I get my 10 hours in, I'm fine. So if I clocked in, like, let's say 7 minutes early or so, depending on how my run was, because like I said, it's a 40 to 50 minute drive there, so traffic's probably gonna happen, and one day it did make me late. So thankfully, sometimes I'd get there early, and I'd probably clock in like 7 minutes early. I was doing that for about a week, and I never got in trouble for it, so I thought it was fine. But then one day I clocked in about, let's say 10 minutes early or so, because I just got there super early. And we also have to do these things called stand-ups. Now, during a stand-up, you get to do your morning stretches, and they also go over goals that they went over the previous day, if they met them or not, and then they talk about today's goals. And they also give you a safety tip and whatever. So during that stand-up, they write off so many minutes of that for time off task, because if you're not doing anything, they'll still write you up for time off task. If you're doing learning stuff, they have to check you into a system so you don't get written up for time off task. And I remember during the stand-up, the manager was saying how some people were taking longer breaks than they were supposed to. So when COVID started happening, the way they had the break set up is that you have one unpaid break that's like a half an hour, then another half an hour break that's paid. I wasn't told how the paid one was measured, which let me get into what I said earlier about how it felt like a prison. It's not just because, oh, I hate it here, it feels like a prison. Let's be real, we all feel like that when it comes to jobs that we don't enjoy. The reason why it really felt like a prison in there was like, you know, like when you're watching a show, or I don't know if real prisons are like this, I've never been to prison. So imagine you're watching a show where like somebody's visiting someone in jail, and you know how they have isolated things, like there's a giant row of telephones or whatever, and they all have like different walls blocking each one, and then a glass wall in front of you, and then you each have a phone to talk to each other. Because of COVID-19, that's how the break room was set up. Walls beside you. There wasn't a glass screen in front of us, surprisingly, but there was enough room of a gap so we wouldn't like be spitting on each other. So keep your 6 feet. And also disinfect everything that you touch, because again, COVID and Amazon takes safety very seriously. But anyway, I just wanted to say how that break room really felt like a prison, like talking to somebody in prison. It was really funny, or ironic, I guess is a better word for it, maybe. But anyway, that day I clocked in very early, and also they were talking to us about how people are taking long breaks. The way I measured my paid break was when I step off the floor, I record a half an hour. When you're done picking, you gotta drop off your tote, possibly get a new one, and then park your order picker and start charging it, and then walk off the floor. And then when you finally get off the warehouse floor, there it is. It takes probably about like 5 minutes more or less to do that. Then after that 5 minutes, I start recording my half an hour, and then come back. Let's say it takes about 5 or more minutes to finally get to my first pick. Maybe 10 minutes to get to my first pick. Because again, you gotta walk all the way there, like, see on the board where we're picking, and then we gotta put on our harness once we get to our order picker, and then get to work. Because there's a whiteboard where we see where we're picking, and that's still a good distance away from where our order pickers are parked. So it still takes time for us to get there. Like I said, I was measuring the half an hour once I stepped off the floor. And when the manager was saying how people have been taking longer breaks, unfortunately, I wasn't one of those people. It wasn't lollygagging. I wasn't, as soon as I get off break or my half an hour is up, I go to the bathroom or something and then go to work. No, I wasn't pulling off shenanigans like that. But she told me that the way that it's tracked is in between totes. So when you scan a tote out or scan a tote in, that's when they check it. So I started to work on that. Turns out that's false information. So the way I found out the truth on how it was really picked, apparently, I don't know, apparently since the people are telling stories left and right, can't really tell which one's real or not. So I wanted to guess. Here, when I got in trouble again for time off task, I gave them the usual, oh, people were in front of me, people were elevated, people were stowing, like, whatever. And then this PA person, which by the way, I had to deal with like 4 different PA people that typically tell me about my time off task or pick rate being low, and I get cool with them. This person who was talking to me, never really dealt with them before, so whatever. So I give them the whole skew of, oh, it's just this and that. And she tells me, what about this long break you had? And I told her, like, I thought it was measured between your scan to totes. She told me, no, it's between your picks. So let's assume that it was the totes, okay? Grabbing a tote, and then parking your pit, charging it, and then going off the floor. Let's say about 5 minutes. And then getting back from the break. Suppose you actually want to stay within that half an hour. You only have 20 minutes to sit down and relax. And that's not including if you have to go to the bathroom or you want to eat something, whatever. So now she's telling me it's in between picks. That gives me even less time, and that shortens it down to about like 15 minutes. That's when I told her. I record my half an hour when I step off the floor. So I don't know what to tell you. when I'm done with my half an hour, I walk back here and then start to get to work. Because, like, she would not let this go. So I was starting to get a little bit lippy with her. And then she told me how something like this could possibly get me fired. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't care. Fire me. And then I get back to work. And then about like what feels like 10 minutes later, that's when I get a message on my scanner saying how I need to meet this guy to where you park your order pickers. Now this guy who wants to talk to me is somebody who talks to me quite often about me not performing all that well. And he's the one who had to report me to get written up. Like, he seemed like a cool guy. He's just doing his job. He's not an asshole. But it's funny how he's the person who keeps talking to me about this stuff. I know he wasn't after me. He even said how he felt bad when I got written up and stuff. It's just that apparently upper management is very anal on the managers that actually interact with us to make sure we're performing the way that we're supposed to. So they've been getting really strict on write-ups and time off task and a bunch of stuff like that. Again, it's not him looking out to like get me. It's he's doing his job. We can blame upper management for that one. So the day that I was talking about my long break was also the morning that I clocked in way too early. And also, I forgot to mention, in between me clocking in so early and then, doing my picks and all that stuff, before my first break, I had to go to the bathroom again. But because I knew time off task was a thing, and I had to worry about that, and because I've already was written up, and I wasn't after my 3 months after the write-up to not be in so much trouble, I was not lollygagging on my phone when I was in the bathroom. But unfortunately, it was the constant wiping of like, God, when are these streaks gonna end? And also, because of me not being a very good liar, also HR got involved, by the way, when he called me up. So it was the guy who always reported me to get written up, and then an HR guy. And they had to partner with me and like try to get my time off task down as low as they could, so I wouldn't get written up again and could possibly get fired. Unfortunately, the clocking in too early alone and the bathroom, those two things alone is enough time for them to report me and then possibly get me terminated. And I was explained like there's a 5-minute grace period, but clocking in early is a no-go. And he told me that like I would know next week if I still have a job or not. So the rest of the day, like this happened like towards the end of that shift, mostly, like probably had like less than half an hour left or so. So I'm stressing out and I'm not very happy. And the next day I come in and I tell one of the people, I believe he's PA certified, but he's not a PA. He's one of the people I normally talk to when I'm not hitting my rate. I tell him what happened. And then he was saying how he feels bad because I'm actually a good picker and stuff like that. It's just, like, it happens. So when the fact that he said that I was a good picker, like that, again, made me feel really good. And then I was talking to the girl that I was friends with, and she was saying how she was possibly going to leave early. And I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I should leave early too, because I still had unpaid time off and paid time off and stuff like that. So I'm thinking, I got a few questions. So the guy who keeps reporting me, I talked to him, and I asked him a genuine question. What's going to happen to my vacation time if I'm terminated? And he said, don't worry, they'll actually pay you for that. And I'm like, okay, cool. But how long do I have to tell you that I'm going to leave? If I want to leave early. He's like, you gotta give us an hour notice. I'm like, okay. In an hour, I'm leaving. So I used up most of my paid time off left that day. And that day, I think I still had like, I don't know, 4 hours left or 5 hours left. So I said, screw it, I'm out of here. So I'm thinking on the way home, oh man, this feels good. I feel like I escaped from prison or ran away from school. It was a good rush, and I was still getting paid for it because I was using paid time off. Because I also passed the guy who was PA certified, and he's like, are you leaving early? And I told him, yeah, if I'm gonna get fired, I might as well use my paid time off while I got it. And he told me, Kyle, don't think like that. That's not the mindset to have. But man, was it funny. And then it was the weekend, so I spent time with the girl and stuff. And then the day I was supposed to come back to work, or the day after, I can't remember. One of the days I had to come back to work. Here, I had Burger King that night, and it did not sit with me well at all. I ended up starting to blow out both ends. And I'm sorry that, like, it's starting to get gross, but things happen. I'm sorry. I had to tell you why I had to call off work. So I'm blowing out both ends. And then I'm going to the bathroom at least once an hour for the rest of the night. So I knew I could not go to work. But I'm going to be real with you. I did call off work quite a bit when I was working there. At first, for the first couple of months, I didn't want to call off work because I just wanted that bread. But then I started to hate this job more and more. And I'm like, you know what? I got some paid time off or unpaid time off. I'm going to use it. I'm just going to take a day or whatever. But then there's some days where I actually did feel sick. But unfortunately, the day that I felt sick, that was the rest of my unpaid time and the rest of my paid time off that I had to use. But again, I'm thinking I might get fired. Whatever. Screw it. And then I come back to work. And then after my lunch break, let's say about 20 minutes or so into me doing picks, at least, again, guessing. Point is, I'm working after my lunch break. I get a message on my scanner saying, hey, meet us in this certain classroom in the learning section. So I'm thinking I'm either going to learn a new thing on a video or I'm going to get fired. So I park my order picker and I get in there. And my manager and an HR guy who I'd never met before was there. And they're reading off something, reading off some notes, and they're saying how, like, time off task, unacceptable, blah, blah. You're being terminated. And you could tell the manager was not comfortable. She anticipated me to flip shit and be very upset about the fact that I was getting terminated for pretty much going to the bathroom. But I sat there thinking, I'm getting fired for going to the bathroom. That qualifies for unemployment, right? I got terminated and I had to get my stuff and get out of there. They took my badge. I had to get my stuff on my order picker and grab my lunchbox out of the break room. But I did ask him, like, okay, what about the picks I'm doing right now? Do I need to drop them off first? She's like, no, we're gonna take care of that for you. And I said, okay, after I'm terminated, how long do I have to wait to come back to Amazon? Or can I come back to Amazon? Because, again, it's not fun as the work can be. It's technically an easy job. As long as you, like, keep with your rate and don't lollygag and you actually work hard, it's an easy job. And the HR guy wasn't sure, but he was guessing about a year. According to my one brother, he's been there for years. It's only a couple of months, like 3 months. Apparently, at least according to Reddit, it varies state to state. It's very odd, but whatever. So I'm driving home, I call mom and I tell her how I'm terminated, and the first thing I do when I get home is file for unemployment. At this point, it's been over 3 weeks since this happened. I still have yet to get my unemployment money. And because so many unemployment claims are happening so often, I don't know when or even if I'm getting my unemployment. They told me how much I'm getting on unemployment, but apparently they have to, like, investigate it, because when I talked to unemployment about, like, hey, where's my money? They said if it's not because of lack of work, they have to investigate it, and they'll let me know if I get it or not, and they'll give me a reason if I don't get it, why I didn't get it, and I could appeal it if I want to. So there's a chance I might not get unemployment, which I feel like I should, but we'll see what happens. And me to try to find a job that will pay me the same rate as what unemployment will, they're awful jobs. At least on an Indeed, there are awful jobs. But I am still looking around trying to find a new job. Like, when it comes to warehouse work, Amazon's probably your best bet. It's not fun work, but it's the best of the shitty work, you know? And that's my story. And despite the reasoning of my firing to be kind of silly, it's still a job that I wouldn't mind going back to. I'd probably go to a different warehouse, but the work itself, I don't mind at all. So I would want to go back to Amazon if I could. But if I find a much better job, like, I don't know, IT or something else that's actually better towards me, then I'd probably rather do that. But until then, I wouldn't mind going back to Amazon. Or if I can do the Best Buy fulfilling order things full time, I would love to go back to that. But until then, I'm going to keep looking for a new job. And what I'm hoping for is to ride unemployment for a couple of months, go back to Amazon, and then move out and find a new place. Because I've been saving up for a couple of months, and I just have about as much money as I want to put into moving out, so I can buy all the furniture and stuff I need and live comfortably when I first move in. Unfortunately, that moving out fund and savings, I'm probably gonna have to start tapping into that really soon, but we'll see where this goes. In fact, me making this video is probably not gonna be good for me trying to come back to Amazon. But I also made a post on Facebook under an Amazon thing about a job listing, about how my experience was. Very small version of this, but other people were agreeing with me. This is why Amazon needs a union, apparently. So that's it for the video. So if you're new and you like what you saw, you know what to do. You've seen a YouTube video before. But more importantly, what I want to know is in the comments, what did you think of the story? Have you thought about working for Amazon? Do you work for Amazon yourself? I don't know. What do you think? I hope I didn't try and sound too one-sided. I didn't want to try and sound biased, but I tried. But I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you learned something from what I told you. This wasn't a feel bad for me story. This is a video telling people, if you're gonna go for Amazon, people do have horror stories, and this is what happened to me. But even after I said this horror story, I would like to come back. And again, thank you for watching. My name is Kyle, and I'll see you on the next one.